Hello! So I just wanted to record a quick intro before this much belated part 3 of my eyeshadow palette collection, because there's quite a few things have happened since I filmed that video. First of all, I want to apologise for this being so delayed. I was doing a lot of procrastination. I may as well be honest about that. But luckily, if you are seeing this, I have brought it to you today. I do want to update you on some of my recent purchases. I did buy some more palettes. First of all, I got the Beauty Bay Pastels palette. And if you want to hear my thoughts on this palette and what I think of the formula, I do have a post on it on my Instagram. So check that out if you're interested. And I have also, for the first time ever, tried Kaleidos makeup. I do have two of their Futurism palettes. First one is the Sci-Fi Greens, which I'm really excited about because now I can have these green eyeshadows in a formula I actually really like. Also, I taped on the plastic sheet so I can keep the names because I want to keep the names for duping the design purposes. And then I also have the number 5, the Electro Turquoise. I heard a rumour that apparently this is getting reformulated or something like that, but mine's just the regular one, the original one, and I do really love this so far. Got some really gorgeous shades, and I have to say I'm really impressed with this packaging. Like, this is some real luxe packaging. That surprised me. Alright, so the second thing I want to bring up is that recently I was a guest on a really awesome podcast. It's called Maxx with a Side of Beauty, and it is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and also the Anchor app. And it's just a really fun podcast where two lovely ladies from Instagram talk about makeup and also some other stuff too. And it's just been really fun winding down on a night and just listening to the podcast. It's been a lot of fun for me. And I was a guest on it, so that's really exciting. So I will leave the links to that in the description. I would highly recommend it. And then the last thing I want to cover is that this might again be a bit like out of date, but I don't really think it's an issue that we can call out of date because it's always going to be relevant. So the recent developments with the Black Lives Matter movement have really been making me think more about what I can do on my platforms to kind of raise awareness, create an educational space. So what I've been doing is I've been sharing a lot of resources on my Instagram stories, and I'm also planning to take that into how I buy my makeup and how I design my palette designs on Instagram. And I'll also be linking a set of different links down below, donation pages, maybe some petitions, whatever I can gather to really help out and hopefully just make things that little bit better. Whether it's educating, donating, signing a petition, what matters is that you do something, because the worst thing you can do is just sit by and do nothing. So I will leave those links down below. And now we have an eyeshadow palette collection part 3 to go to, I believe. So roll that tape. Now we can go on to the last part, hopefully, of this video, which is my Revolution and Colourpop collection, which happen to be my biggest palette collections, hence why it's getting its own part. So I'm going to start with Revolution, and I'm going to start with the collaboration palettes. So the first collaboration palette I ever got from Revolution is this one. This actually has the old logo as well, so this is from quite early on. This is the original Soph palette in collaboration with She Was Soph Does Nails and is now Soph Does Life. You have the ubiquitous sheet that you always get when they can't fit the names on the palette. And this is the palette! I still think this is a really cute all-around palette. I rarely really use it because I think that the formula is decent. I don't think it's like Revolution's best formula, but I still think it's a decent formula. I mean, they've done worse. But I do really enjoy the formula. I definitely think that there are some things that maybe like leave a little bit to be desired with. Like some of these shimmers could be a little bit more versatile to work with. I feel like you kind of are going to get a lot of very similar looks, but I do think that it is a nice palette. This is a really nice transition. I really like this one. These two are really cute shades. They're really kind of like almost a little bit crumbly, but it's a nice texture. It reminds me of actually the shimmers in the Riviera palette. Overall, I feel like this is still a very solid palette, even though I don't really use it that much. And I'm gonna remember I need to put the thing back in so I don't forget. Next we have these two. These are the next collaboration palettes they came out with. So I'm going to start with probably the shiniest palette in my collection is this one. This is the original Tammy palette. This is the Tropical Paradise palette. I definitely feel like compared to the newer Tammy palette, which we'll get onto later, This one definitely got a lot less coverage, but I think that this is a really underrated palette. Again, I rarely dig into this one. I feel like I'm rarely digging into my Revolution palettes overall. But this is such a nice palette. The way that this palette was put together and the way it was curated, I think is so thoughtful. You have this top row for more very distinctly warm looks, and then you have a lot of pops down here that can really make the look more versatile. And then down the bottom you have these 3 different transition shades. I like that she accounted for everyone in this palette. I particularly like that this palette is the kind of palette that would work so well on deeper skin tones because it's got really nice rich tones, and even though I am colour of a sheet of A4 paper, I do really appreciate rich tones in a palette. I would rather have richer tones than weak tones because I feel like weak tones can only really serve a couple of people and they can only really serve a couple of looks. So that's what I really appreciate about this palette. I think you can still get this. I think. But I really like this, and I like that you can create a blue kind of look, you can create a really nice green look, especially if you pair it with the gold. You can create something so gorgeous. And then obviously a lot of warmer looks you can get out of this. So I'd recommend that palette. The next one is this one. This is the original Kami palette. This is the Kiss of Fire. This is quite unique because it only has 10 eyeshadows and 2 highlighters, but this highlighter doesn't really work as a highlighter on my skin. But what's good about this is that I can use that as an eyeshadow because it's right next to them, and I'm never going to use it as a highlight, so I may as well like dip into it if I want to have like a bronzy lid.
So inventive. Creative.
However, the other highlight is one of the best highlights in my collection, which, considering I've been kind of on a bit of a highlighter kick recently, I've got quite a few different new formulas and different types, but this one still like stands out for me. This is just this gorgeous green shade. I am clearly stuck in like 2017 because I love coloured highlight. Judge all you want, but I still love it. I'm actually wearing one today. I'm wearing the Laura Geller one. But this is such a good palette considering like it's only like 10 shades of actual eyeshadow, because I feel like this is a real kind of pro. I don't want to say pro because I don't really know what pro is, but you have these basic warm mattes which are really useful, and you have a really nice teal, gorgeous purple, really nice berry shade, and then this is also really nice. These are the kinds of shimmers that you can actually work with in the crease, and you can create the foundation of a look with one of these shimmers if you wanted to, which I know some people don't like that. Some people don't want shimmer in the crease, but I think that putting shimmer in the crease is quite fun.
Oh wow. I am disgusted. You better talk to her before I do, because I'm hurt her feelings.
And then you also have a black, which I think a black eyeshadow is just always useful. Again, this is another palette, I'm not sure if you can still get it, but I think it's just a really nice palette that really flew under the radar, but I will always appreciate it. Now I'm gonna jump onto the other Kami palette. This is his newer palette, but this is the Make Magic palette, and what's nifty about this palette is that the names are on the palette, so there's no plastic thing. But this is a palette I kind of have a mixed relationship with. These top shimmers, well, I shouldn't even call these shimmers because they're just like full-on metallics, like foils. My experience with these have been really good. I think these are gorgeous. And then some of these mattes are nice, like this is a nice matte, this is really nice. I like that as like just like a wing. I'm pretty sure I went to a wedding one time and I wore that on the wing, just a little subtle makeup. You don't want to get too much or the relatives will pass out. But not all of the shades in this have really impressed me. Like some of these further down shimmers are kind of a bit flat. Not all of these mattes are amazing. I was kind of a little bit, I don't know, I had mixed feelings about this palette, but I do really love this top row and I'd like to get a little bit more use, particularly out of that top row, because I just think it's an interesting texture. And sometimes it's fun to just play around with different textures, but I definitely have a little bit more like to be desired out of this palette, which is kind of a shame because I really loved the first Kami palette and I wanted the second one to be just as good. But I do like the packaging, it's really cute. Now, one palette that really exceeded my expectation is the second Tammy palette, and this is a palette that is really polarizing. Some people love it, some people hate it. I am on Team Love. I think that this is a gorgeous palette. This is Tropical Carnival. We have a return to the names on the plastic sheet, and this is the palette, and this is a lot more kind of uniform. It is just a straight up rainbow palette. I know people are having a little bit more of a sour relationship with the rainbow, like, oh, the rainbow's already been curated or whatever, but like sometimes you need a rainbow palette. Sometimes. Not all the time. Sometimes. So you have all of the basic mattes, but then you have red metallic to go with the red matte, green metallic to go with the green matte, blue metallic to go with the blue matte. It's it's really easy to create a monochrome look. So you don't need to get all of the Colourpop monochromatic palettes, unlike me, which I did. But that's for another section of the video. But out of the shades here, which ones do I really love? I love this Calypso shade. This is one of my favourite shades because this metallic electric lime is so beautiful. I actually think electric lime works better as a metallic, so I think that was a good choice on Tammy's part to make that a metallic. I really love the metallics up here. This whole top row is just a really cool row because it's just like dual metallics, and I think that that plays so well with the other shades in this palette. Instead of just having like white shimmer, gold shimmer, it's like something that's a little bit more interesting. So you have like purple shimmers, orange shimmers, that it all kind of coordinates really nicely. And then I've used this black a lot, predominantly for like doing like a shadow wing, but also to deepen up looks. And I have to say, this is one of my favourite Revolution palettes. I think this is honestly one of the best ones they've ever done. And I've gotta hand it to Tammy, she did an amazing job with this palette. So that's one of the collab palettes that I really love. It's probably actually my favourite collab palette from them. I don't have any of the other collab palettes, and honestly none of them have really interested me that much. Challenge, Revolution, try and make a better collab palette. Or hire me. I'm kidding. I'm not. Right, so I'm gonna quickly whiz through the rest of my Revolution palettes because this whole process is taking far too long. I have 3 of the Reloaded palettes, and I rarely use these. These are kind of just buried in my collection. But I have Division, this iconic Division. It's been a long time since I used this one. I have the iconic Vitality, which has a nice little crack on here because it's been used quite a few times, but again, not recently. And then the newest one is one that actually came out quite a while ago. This is the Velvet Rose. These are all Anastasia dupes. One of them's a Subculture dupe, even though I already have Subculture now. Well, I got the dupe first. Vitality is Modern Renaissance, and this is a Soft Glam dupe. I have to say, I would like to get a little bit more use out of this one particularly, because I really love this gold. It's got a really nice texture to it. Just a really nice palette overall, and I never really get that much use out of it, which is sad. But I'm gonna kind of go through all of my palettes gradually and just see the ones that I need to use more. That's kind of what I'm doing over this next month. So the next of like the basic Revolution palettes is this one, which I got for free with when they do like the £12 and then get a free palette at Superdrug. This is the Pretty Creative. They had a few options. This is the most colourful one, so I picked that one. Are we surprised? But this is a really interesting palette. I will say this shade is like powder. This shade is like powder. Like, apparently it's supposed to be a highlight.
No ma'am. No ma'am. No ma'am.
It's not highlighting shit. But the rest of these shades are really nice. This is a gorgeous highlight, even though the name, which is Created to Create, is a little redundant. But we'll forgive that. But this is a really nice shade. This is a really nice shade. I really like these metallics. This is a really nice shade. Like, this is a cute little palette. And again, I don't really use it often. And also, it's not exactly for sale anymore. A weird territory over whether to promote it that much. But also, I don't really care because it's like my personal collection. I have one I Heart Revolution chocolate bar. I did have 2 other ones from the Chocolate Heart gift set, but the colour schemes didn't really impress me that much, and the formula was just kind of blah. But I did keep one of them, and this is one that I got separately. It still smells of chocolate. It's the Violet chocolate bar, and I still think that this was a really nice palette. The last time I used it, I wasn't like that enthused by the formula. But I think it's just because I've tried a lot since then. But I still think that this is a really cute palette. Like, you have this nice almond shade, you have... This is a gorgeous shade. This vaudeville shade is such a nice orange. You've got purples, you've got berry. You've also got more neutral shimmers. I think that some of these shimmers could be a little more varied. But it's a really nice palette if you want to create, like, maybe some more neutral looks, but then also some more purple looks. It's not just a purple palette, which I really like about that. Even though I love purple eyeshadows, sometimes you want something that can do more. You want something that can go more neutral, more purple, more berry, more like just brazen warm tones. I really like that about this palette, so I definitely still keep it for that reason. And I mean, I love this packaging. I love how this like purple is almost like weird fondant goo. In my mind, I have a strange mind. Alright, I think that this is my last Revolution palette, or at least the last one I've kept. This is the, I believe it's the Halloween Rainbow palette. Part of me wants to say it's part of the Forever Flawless collection, but I don't think it is. The clasps are kind of a little hard to open. But I do really like this palette. I like the tin packaging. I think it's just a nice refreshing change rather than just the same old plastic cartons. But this is a nice palette. I do have a few issues with it regarding the colour selection. First of all, I don't think this goes particularly dark. And secondly, some of these shimmers are very similar. Like you have this one, and this one are all very like around the same area. I feel like maybe they could have had something a little bit different. Like I said with the Tammy palette, how that has colourful metallics to correspond with the colourful mattes. This is a lot of colourful mattes and kind of quite cookie cutter metallic. I will say this is gorgeous bronze and this silver is like close to god tier. As far as like affordable drugstore options go in the UK, that is such a nice silver. And then I also really like the mattes in this palette. This Pegasus shade, excellent. There's a good yellow in here, there's a nice blue, there's a like coral. These two corals are very similar. Again, it's kind of a similar issue with the metallics. This mint is really nice. You even have like a blue-brown here, like kind of the same one as in the Venus 2 and in the Comfort Zone palette. And I think the white is fine. It's no ADH sales, but it'll do. I will say I do have a soft spot for this palette. I think it's a really cute little palette. Quite easy to work with. You can create quite a lot of really nice looks. There was one look I created with the orange, the turquoise, and the silver. One of my favourite looks ever. So I definitely feel like this is one of the better palettes in the Revolution line. It's one of the better showcases of the formula. It's one of the better packaging showcases. I mean, it's got a rainbow. Clearly my ass was going to buy this palette. I definitely think that Revolution can be hit or miss with the formula, but I also think that they have promise. I think that they do a lot of promising things, and I like looking out for their releases just to see if they have something that is inspired and interesting. Alright, you know what time it is. It is time to go through all of the Colourpop palettes, starting with the monochromatic series, because I have lost it. This series has definitely been a big part of Colourpop's line recently, so it makes sense that I have far too many of them. Yeah, so I'll start with this one. I'm gonna try and be as quick as possible with these. This is the Main Squeeze palette. This is the red palette. The clasp is really hard to open. But overall, I really love this palette. This is such a nice palette, and I think that even though you can't get that versatile looks out of it, the looks that I do get out of it, they're gorgeous. Somehow this turns me into someone far more gorgeous than I actually am. But you have some really nice metallics, some gorgeous mattes. Overall, solid. If you want to look seductive and gorgeous, consider this one. Next one, Aha Honey, the yellow palette. I don't have the orange palette. This press glitter, it's cute to look at, it's got a nice shift, but I like being able to see. The matte formula is okay in this palette. I'm not that impressed with it. I'm not that impressed with Colourpop's yellows overall. Some shades they get really right, like the oranges they get right, the reds they get right, the greens they get right. The yellows, yeah, they're fine. The reason I love this palette, this shade, this shade, this shade, Charlie's Angels of Metallics, I love them so much. Queen Bee is so beautiful, Dandy is a stunner, and we have Sunburst here, High Court of Inner Corner shades, Member Present. These are some of my favourite metallics from Colourpop, which is ironic because these mattes don't really impress me that much, but the metallics, I love the metallics in this palette so much. This is why I keep this palette, because the metallics are just exceptional. So we've got a newer one, which is actually the one I'm wearing on the peepers today. This is meant to be, and something really weird has been happening with the newer Colourpop palettes I've been getting. The pans have been popping out, not as much with, I think they've kind of settled down with this one, but for a while, because I'd stored them on the sides to kind of have them stacked like kind of a bookshelf and have them look really cute and organised and easy to access. And the pans just started like sliding out, and yeah, so we're not doing that anymore. But this is a nice palette. I definitely think that I'm not really that much into Colourpop's more pastel-y palettes. Like this look that I got today is really nice, but this kind of is the look that I'd get from this palette, and it's kind of sad because I'd like to get a little bit more variety, but it kind of does what it says on the tin. I can't really complain that much. The formula's decent enough, the mattes are fine, the metallics are gorgeous. I love the metallics in this palette again. I think Colourpop just does some really nice metallic formula, and I don't see why they need to put pressed glitters in the palettes because the metallics speak for themselves. That's all I'm gonna say. Now we're going on to, this might be my favourite of the monochromatic series. Not my favourite Colourpop palette of all time. I'm going on to that later. My favourite of the monochromatic series is Just My Look. This is the green palette. I like this because it goes darker, and I like that a palette goes darker rather than going like really, really light. Metallics, gorgeous. This Big Bank shade, amazing. Mary Jane, fabulous. You have some more kind of brown tones, you have mintier tones, you have this true forest green. I feel like this overall is such a rich palette, and it's just a lot of fun working with this. It's very pigmented. I feel like you do get a lot of intensity at times, especially with some of these darker shades, so it might be a little intimidating. but I feel like the formula of the mattes is good, the formula of the metallics is good. I feel like this is all around a winner, and I just really like the looks I get out of this. You could say I've had a lot of luck with this palette. That's it, shut down the channel. But before that, Blue Moon. So this is a really nice palette. The reason I don't really use it as much is because I don't think I look that good in blue eyeshadow. This is another one where I think the formula is a little inconsistent at times, but I feel like the winning moments really win. Lumi. This shade here, this is another member of the High Court of Inner Corner shades. It's such a nice icy blue, white, kind of flipping gorgeousness. We don't even know how to form sentences anymore. And this is a really nice, overall, more compacted and specific blue palette. It doesn't go into different directions like the Huda one does. It really sticks to kind of one type of blue. It's a very true blue. I definitely do need to use this more, again, because I feel like then I'd get more of a familiarity with the formula. But I don't think I look that good in blue eyeshadow, which is a bit of an obstacle. But I still love the colour story of this, and I also love the cover. Now we're going on to the Bachelorette of all palettes, the whitest palette. This is the Lilac You A Lot palette. This is another one I had like a little bit of problems with the popping out thing. Don't ask me what's going down with Colourpop's factory. Well, currently nothing. But whatever was going on, they had a bit of an issue with eyeshadow pans playing whack-a-mole. But again, metallics in this palette are the ones I'm really impressed with. Though that's a nice shade, I think that kind of contributes to a really nice deeper look. It doesn't go that deep. This one is very pigmented, very soft, and I used far too much of it on an eye look and it got swamped, and it's got a giant delve in the pan from where my brush went in, and yeah, that was an experience. But a lot of these shades are very light, and because I'm not really that into like a very light pastel kind of look, I just don't think it gives me everything I want. I mean, they're cute, but like, cute next to gorgeous, you know, gorgeous is gonna devour cute. It's a cute palette, but it kind of does leave a little bit more to be desired, in my opinion. Now, another purple palette. I still don't think Colourpop's done like the perfect straight purple palette, but I still absolutely love the It's My Pleasure palette, and I'm going to explain why. I really like the mattes in this palette, don't get me wrong. They're really great mattes. I feel like the formula is solid in the mattes. But if you go into this show, you're going for the metallics.
And that's on a period.
Earthshine, Do or Do, Bare Minimum, Mr. Sandman. Chiclet's also really cute. She's there. This is an example where the Colourpop metallic formula just comes out and is like, look at me, I'm amazing, you are going to love me, and I'm telling you I am glowing. This is the best metallic formula I've ever known. Again, it's not like, I would like to see Colourpop do like a proper dark purple palette, which is like kind of goth-like, and has got like dark berry grape kind of thing. But this is still a gorgeous palette, and I still love this palette, and I still think that this is, in competition with Just My Look, is one of my favourites. Those are at war. On to this one. This was the original monochromatic palette. This one started everything. It's all your fault. But I still love you. I still love you very much. This is the Ooh La La palette. This is the pink palette. Again, this is one I don't really use as much, but I am really impressed with the metallics and the mattes. I think that this is another one where the formula was consistent. Consistently good mattes, consistently good metallics. This is a gorgeous shade up here. I really like these at the bottom. Poodle's really nice. Big Sugar's really nice. Overall, I like this palette. Again, this is one I don't use as much. Right, the last palette is the artist formerly known as Smoke Show. It's the Colourpop Blow and Smoke palette. It was called the Smoke Show, but then someone, potentially Coloured Rain, people might think, they were just like, no, we have a trademark on that name, so scoot your boot. And then they took it off the site, which I thought they discontinued it, because Colourpop always discontinues all the best products. Like, end of story. But no, they didn't discontinue it. They just pulled it temporarily so they could rename it to Blow and Smoke. So I got mine. This is the main one that does the whack-a-mole thing. I have to pop this back in. To pop you back in. Which one needs to go back in? You needs to go back in. You need to go back in. Here's the tray to your majesty. However, out of the three newest, like, monochromatic palettes I've got from Colourpop, this might be the best one. Primarily because I think it does go darker. But you have some gorgeous shades in here. You have another Winning Silver from Colourpop. I haven't gotten onto the original Winning Silver from Colourpop, which we'll get onto in a bit. Ignite is really nice. I love the whole palette. Even like this matte black with glitter in is just gorgeous to look at, and I think that even though it's functionally the same as the matte black, Night Dream is gorgeous just to have in this palette. If you want a dark, grey, smoky look, here you go! Here's the one that does it. This is the one that serves you the smoky. It gives you it all. I just think that it's exceptional at that job, and it's one of the best palettes that Colourpop has done in a long time. However, those palettes are all really nice. They are not in my top tier of Colourpop palettes, because there are 2 palettes that are in that top tier. And also I'm going to show you 2 other palettes I have from Colourpop. So I'm going to quickly get to a palette that I don't really talk about that much because 1, it's been discontinued, and 2, it always gets lost in my collection because it doesn't go with the other Colourpop palettes. It kind of goes in the palette box with the other palettes. But this is the wet palette. This is the collaboration with Breton Rock. There was also a lip palette. I didn't get that one. This isn't one of my like top favourite Colourpop palettes, but it does have one of my top favourite shades in. Thickens, the God tier silver, Queen of the Silvers, the best silver there was ever known. Unparalleled. People try all the time to come to this shade's level. They fail all the time. Like, the other shades in this palette are really nice too, don't get me wrong. This is a really nice green. This is a great matte. This is a great matte that is kind of like something not a lot of companies do, is this blue, almost white matte. This is really nice. This reminds me a lot of one of the shades in the Huda palette. This actually reminds me a lot of kind of more in the direction of the Huda palette rather than the Blue Moon palette. I'd say this is quite different to Blue Moon. This kind of veers off into all different directions. Blue Moon stays very central. It kind of has its area of true blue, and this is like, screw it, I'm gonna do everything. You've even got 2 neutral shades, and one of them's called Skinny Legend, because that's a thing. But overall, I like this palette a lot, and it's another one I need to use more. Also, I kept the box art, but it's in like my box of box arts. So I have 3 palettes left. We're on the home stretch, truly. I'm going to start with 2 Legends Platinum tier palettes. We are in the presence of royalty, and we are going to start with one that is a fan favourite, and it's this one. This is the Good Spot palette. You may know her name, but you do not know her story. This angel got discontinued by Colourpop because they are clowns. And sorry, I really shouldn't be talking bad about companies like that, but literally, why you discontinue your best palette? Why? Make it make sense, please. This is an example of what Colourpop can do if they are given the creativity and the motivation and the idea of doing something different. You have gorgeous metallics that are consistent with their best metallics, really great matte shades. At first I kind of found this palette a little harder to work with because they are very pigmented mattes, but eventually I just fell for this formula. You can get such a gorgeous basic warm tone look out of this, gold looks, you can get green looks, you can get purple looks, you can get things that combine all of those things. And it's leopard print! I mean, this palette is kind of just me as a palette. It's so interesting. It's got grunginess, bright moments, it's got warmer moments. I think this is just such an excellent palette, and the fact that Colourpop discontinued this, it's sad because I feel like they could create some amazing palettes with the formula they have, the price point, the packaging, but they just keep on churning out kind of basic stuff, and make more palettes like this. This is such a nice palette. On that other note, another palette that is amazing and fabulous and has been discontinued because Colourpop doesn't know what they're doing. This one isn't a fan favourite. I actually think that this is the most underrated palette in my collection. And it's this one. This is the Salvaje palette in collaboration with good old Becky G. She's had a few collections with Colourpop. One of them was the Hola Chola collection, which got pulled because of copyright. This one did not get pulled because of copyright. This one got pulled because Colourpop hates itself. Probably, I don't know. This one also has a mirror. Not that I care that much, because I usually just do my makeup with my table mirror. This palette is so underrated. No one talks about this palette. The thing is with a Good Spot palette is that everyone talks about, it's such a good palette, it's an amazing palette, why did they discontinue it? No one talks about this palette, and it makes me angry. It makes me venomous that no one talks about how gorgeous this palette is. You have beautiful burgundies, metallics that are just so gorgeous and evocative of the Huda Beauty Rose Gold. You got blues. I mean, you got blues. Gorgeous peach. Gorgeous caramel. Brown. I know that sounds really weird saying brown, but it's a really nice brown, okay? I just think that this is such a gorgeous colour scheme. People said it was a boring neutral palette with a pop of blue. I call shade, I call bollocks. I know I even said that at one point. I call bollocks on myself. This is exquisite. And the shade names are in Spanish, and I'm doing Spanish Duolingo, so technically this is educational. And I also love the packaging. This is such a beautiful pattern. I would gladly have like furniture with this pattern on because it's beautiful. And I just love this palette so much. And again, Colourpop, what are you doing? Stop it. Why are you discontinuing all of your best products? So those were the 2 platinum tier palettes from Colourpop that have been discontinued. And my last palette is one that I made myself. And you're probably thinking, why do you have a picture of Ever After High's main characters stuck on this palette? And that's because this is the custom Ever After High palette. There is only one, and this is it. I made it myself. It's actually called the Royals and Rebels palette, if we're being technical. There are 12 shades in this palette. Each one is designed to represent a specific Ever After High character. I do have a video describing all of this process, so I won't talk about it now. Also, we're running low on time. But this is the palette. I did a lot of like sticking paper onto this to make it look like custom. These are some really nice shades. Not all of them are winners, but there are some really top tier shades here. Some really gorgeous metallics down here. Incredible, amazing metallic yellows, Deja Vu, a legend, really nice green, gorgeous orangey red, great blue, great pink, stunning purple, quality day. However, half of the shades in this palette that I used in the Colourpop singles to build this palette have been discontinued. Because Colourpop is they just have to discontinue everything I love. So thanks Colourpop. Not only did you let me down, you let down all of these characters. Shame. But now that I've ranted constantly about Colourpop's questionable decisions, that means I've done every single palette in my collection. If you were asking, I'm still not counting. But that was a lot. That's what I've learned from this whole experience, is that I need to use more of these palettes and just see whether there are some that I need to maybe pass on to new homes, because maybe some of them have done their bit and need to enjoy their twilight days in another dimension or something like that. That's something to consider, so I definitely want to use this next couple of weeks to contemplate that. We'll have to see. But if you like this video by any chance and you didn't find me obnoxiously annoying, especially in this last part, then like my video. If you have anything to ask or anything to say, leave it in the comments. You can subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos from me, which I don't know when they're coming. But if you really want to know when they're coming, I don't want to have to say it, but the bell is there. There is a bell and you can ring it. That's all I'm gonna say. If you want to see me ramble on about anything in the world, I am on Twitter. And if you want to see some average looks like this, complete with terrible sideburn that I forgot to shave, but mostly, if you want to see some gorgeous eyeshadow palette designs, roll the montage. Then make sure you follow my Instagram. I've been getting a lot of traction from my Instagram recently and I've been really loving it. So thank you to everyone that's been sharing it, everyone that's liked, everyone that's commented, everyone that's like interacted, even the people who have blocked me. It's somewhat gratifying. But thank you for watching this eyeshadow palette collection and I hope to see you again soon.